Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I remember the exact moment things broke. We were sitting at a quiet restaurant downtown. Low lights, soft music, the kind of place Myra liked because it made everything feel important. She had picked it, said we needed a real conversation. I should have known. She didn't touch her food, just sat there, fingers wrapped around her glass like she was holding on to something. "Matthew," she said, calm, steady. "I'm pregnant." I leaned back in my chair. "Okay." She looked at me like she expected something bigger. Panic, maybe. Instead, I just waited. "It's not yours." That landed. I didn't move right away. Just watched her. Let the silence sit there long enough to make her uncomfortable. "Say that again," I said. She exhaled slowly. "I met someone on the trip. His name is Adrian. It wasn't planned, but it happened. And I'm keeping the baby." She had been back from that trip for about a month when she set this dinner up. I didn't think much of it then. I should have. I nodded once, like I was processing numbers. "You went on a vacation," I said, voice steady. "Slept with another man, got pregnant, and came back to tell me over dinner. It's more complicated than that." "No," I cut in. "It's actually very simple." She straightened in her seat. There was no shame in her face. That's what stood out. There was a plan. "I didn't bring you here to argue," she said. "I brought you here because we need to decide what happens next." I almost smiled. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell me what you've already decided." She didn't hesitate. "We stay married," she said. "We raise the child together. We move forward." I let that sit for a second. "And if I don't?" That's when her tone changed. Just slightly. Sharper. "Then we divorce," she said. "And I take half of everything. The house, your business, the accounts. I've already looked into it." There it was. Not emotion, not regret. Leverage. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, and looked her straight in the eyes. "You walked in here thinking you had control," I said quietly, "like you were giving me choices." "I am." I shook my head once. "No," I said. "You're not." She frowned. "What does that mean?" I held her gaze, calm, steady. "It means you made one mistake, and now you're about to make another." She stared at me, trying to read if I was bluffing. I wasn't. "You think those are my only options?" I asked. She didn't answer. I leaned back again, reached for my glass, and took a slow sip. "Then you don't know me at all." Myra didn't like silence. I'd learned that years ago. She filled it when she felt things slipping. "You're reacting emotionally," she said, folding her arms. "That's not going to help either of us." I let out a short breath through my nose. "Emotionally?" "Yes. You're taking this personally, instead of thinking about the bigger picture." I leaned forward again, slower this time. "You're carrying another man's child," I said. "And you're telling me not to take it personally." She didn't flinch. That was the problem. "I'm telling you to be smart," she replied. "This doesn't have to destroy everything." "You already did that." A waiter walked up. Awkward smile on his face, clearly sensing the tension. "Everything okay here?" I didn't look at him. "Yeah. Bring the check, please." "We just got our food," Myra said. "I'm done," I replied. The waiter nodded quickly and left. Myra leaned in, lowering her voice. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," I said calmly. "You're trying to make it easy for yourself." Her jaw tightened. "I spoke to a lawyer before I got back," she said. "I wanted to understand my position." "Of course you did." "I'm entitled to half, Matthew. That's not a threat. That's reality." I nodded slowly. "So this whole thing, the dinner, the speech, that was just you delivering terms. I'm offering a solution. You're offering me a bill," I said, "for your decisions." Her expression hardened. "If you walk away from this, you lose more than you think." I held her gaze. "Try me." For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Not fear, uncertainty. "You built a good life," she said. "A house, a business, stability. You really want to risk all of that out of pride?" I almost laughed, but I didn't. "This isn't pride," I said. "This is self-respect." The check arrived. I picked it up without looking at the total and slid my card in. Myra watched me carefully now. The confidence she walked in with wasn't as solid. "You're not thinking clearly," she said. "No," I replied, standing up. "I'm thinking very clearly." I put my jacket on, then looked down at her. You came here with a plan, I said. You thought you had me cornered. I do. I shook my head once. You had me, I said. Past tense. She stood up now, voice sharper. If you walk out, Matthew, you're choosing the hard way. I paused just long enough. Then I looked at her, steady and direct. There is no easy way anymore. You made sure of that. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her call my name once. I didn't stop. By the time I stepped outside into the night air, I already knew two things. I wasn't raising that child, and I wasn't losing what I built. Which meant one thing. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I didn't go home right after the restaurant. I drove across town to my brother Daniel's place. He opened the door, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without asking questions. Kitchen, he said. You look like you need a drink. I didn't drink. Not that night. I sat at his table instead, hands flat on the wood. Myra's pregnant, I said. Daniel gave a small smile. Congrats, man. It's not mine. That got his attention. I told him everything. The vacation, the man named Adrian, the dinner, the ultimatum. I kept it clean. No emotion, just facts. When I finished, Daniel leaned back in his chair. She already talked to a lawyer? Yeah. He let out a low whistle. Then this wasn't a mistake. This was planned. I know. He rubbed his jaw. You need to be careful. If she's setting this up, she's thinking long term. I'm already there. Daniel worked in real estate law. Not divorce, but close enough to understand how things could turn. Did she put anything in writing? He asked. Not yet. Then you need leverage, he said. Proof. Anything that shows intent, not just the affair. I nodded once. That confirmed what I was already thinking. I asked him if I could stay there for a while. He didn't hesitate. Of course, he said. Around midnight, I went back to the house. The lights were off. Her car was gone. Inside, it felt different. Not empty. Just staged. Like someone had already started moving on. A few drawers were half cleared. Closet space missing. She'd planned distance. I went into the bedroom. Her laptop was on the dresser. Left behind. She always reused passwords. Birthdays, simple combinations. Took me less than a minute. The screen opened. Messages were already synced. I didn't scroll at first. I searched one name. Adrian. Dozens of messages. The early ones were light. Then they shifted. Personal, then physical, then strategic. That's where it got interesting. One message stood out. He wrote that I'd fold once I realized what I had to lose. That men like me didn't risk comfort. That I'd choose the easy path. I read that twice. Then I kept going. There were discussions about timing, about telling me in a controlled way, about using the pregnancy as leverage, not a mistake, a plan. I forwarded everything to myself, carefully, clean, no trace. I closed the laptop. Then I moved through the house and took what mattered. Documents, keys, anything important she could later twist or control. No extra noise, no hesitation. I stood there for a minute. They thought I was predictable. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake was thinking I wouldn't check. By the time I left the house, I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew exactly what I was dealing with, and now I had something they didn't expect. Proof. Myra called the next morning. I let it ring twice before answering. We need to talk, she said. You already told me everything you needed to say. Not like that. Not in a place full of people. This needs to be handled properly. I paused. Then I said, today, 6, at the cafe near my office. There was a short silence. Fine. She was already there when I arrived. A corner table, like she'd chosen it on purpose. This time she looked more controlled, more prepared. I sat down across from her. You look better, she said. Calmer. I am. She nodded, like that confirmed something for her. I've been thinking, she said. We both reacted badly last night. I didn't. She ignored that. There's a way to fix this. We don't have to destroy everything. I reached into my jacket and placed my phone on the table. Before you continue, I said, you should read something. She frowned but picked it up. I watched her face as she scrolled. Confusion first, then recognition, then color draining out of her face. Where did you get this? She asked quietly. Your laptop. You went through my... I cut her off. Don't do that. Not right now. She set the phone down slowly. It's not what it looks like. It looks like planning, I said. It looks like you and Adrian discussing how to corner me. Her voice tightened. We were trying to figure things out. No, I said. You were figuring out how to control the outcome. She leaned forward. You're twisting it. I'm reading it. Silence. I tapped the phone once. He thinks I'd fold, that I'd choose comfort over principle. Myra didn't respond. That's what you thought too, right? I asked. I thought you'd be reasonable. I nodded slowly. That's your version of reasonable? I raise another man's child and thank you for the opportunity? Her eyes flashed. You're making it sound worse than it is. You're hiding behind words. She took a breath, changed tone. Matthew, I made a mistake, but the situation is real now. There's a child involved. That child has a father, I said. It's not me. You're my husband. Not for long. That landed harder this time. You'd throw away everything? She asked. You already did. She looked down for a moment, then back up. We can still fix this. I shook my head once. You don't want to fix anything, I said. You want stability. You want someone else to carry the consequences. That's not fair. It's accurate. Her voice dropped. So that's it? You're just walking away? No, I said. I'm walking forward. Without you. I stood up. This ends one way now, I added. In court. Matthew. I didn't stop. Behind me, I heard her call my name again. I kept walking. This time, I wasn't reacting. I was moving. She thought this was just another conversation, something to say her piece, try to control the outcome, maybe shift things in her favor. What she didn't know was that I had recorded the entire conversation on a second phone in my pocket. I found out 2 days later that Myra hadn't been waiting around. She'd been working the story. It started with a call from Eric Lawson, a contractor I'd worked with for years. Hey, he said carefully. Everything all right at home? Why? He hesitated. Heard you and Myra were having problems. That things got tense. Tense how? Another pause. She's been telling people you've been distant, drinking more, losing your temper. I didn't react right away. Who told you that? I asked. Her friend, Olivia. It's been going around. Of course it had. I ended the call, sat there for a minute, then grabbed my keys. Olivia Carter lived 10 minutes away. I knocked once. She opened the door halfway, saw me, and froze. Matthew, I didn't expect... I know, I said. That's why I'm here. She stepped outside, closing the door behind her. This isn't a good time. It is for me. She crossed her arms, defensive. I've been hearing things, I said. About me, about my marriage. She didn't answer. So, I'll keep it simple, I continued. Myra cheated on me. She came back pregnant. Then she tried to pressure me into raising the child. Olivia shook her head slightly. That's not what she said. I know. She said you pushed her away, that she felt alone for months. And that justifies this? I didn't say that. But you repeated it. She looked uncomfortable now. I was just supporting my friend by spreading a version of events that isn't true. She was hurt. So was I said. Difference is, I didn't lie about it. That landed. I took a step closer. Not aggressive, direct. Listen carefully, I said. This goes to court. Everything comes out. Messages, timelines, all of it. Olivia's expression shifted. And when it does, I continued, anyone who helped push a false story is going to look exactly like what they are. That sounds like a threat. It's not, I said. It's clarity. She didn't respond. I turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, I added. Fix what you've been saying. Or don't. Either way, the truth is coming. That evening I made calls. Clients, suppliers, people who mattered. I didn't argue. I didn't explain in circles. I gave them facts. Myra and I are divorcing. She had an affair and came back pregnant. Anything else you've heard isn't accurate. Some were surprised. Some quiet. A few apologized. Didn't matter. What mattered was control. By the end of the night, the story wasn't one-sided anymore, and Myra wasn't the only one talking. I met with a lawyer the next morning. His name was Harold Cole. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, didn't waste time on small talk. Exactly what I needed. Start from the beginning, he said. I did. Clean, direct, no emotion. When I finished, I handed him the printed messages. He read in silence for a few minutes, then leaned back. "This helps," he said. "A lot." "How bad is it for her?" I asked. Harold folded his hands. "She made a critical mistake. She tied the pregnancy to financial pressure. That opens the door to coercion arguments." "And the assets?" "If we push this right," he said, "she could lose her claim to a significant portion, possibly more." I nodded once. "Good." He looked at me carefully. "Most people try to settle these things quietly. I'm not most people." "I can see that." He tapped the papers. "We file immediately. Divorce, asset protection, and a formal challenge on paternity. We also document everything going forward." "Already doing that." "Good," he said, "because this won't stay quiet. I don't want it to." We filed that afternoon. The next morning, Myra had been served. She called. I didn't answer. Then a message came through. She said I was overreacting, that I was turning this into something bigger than it needed to be. I didn't respond. An hour later, Harold called me. "Her lawyer reached out," he said. "That was fast. They're trying to contain this." "What's the offer?" "She walks away from the house, the business, most of the accounts. Clean break." I was quiet for a second. "That's generous," he added. "On paper." "On paper," I repeated. "They want a non-disclosure agreement. No public details. No court fight." I leaned back in my chair. So that was the play. Damage control. "She keeps her image," I said. "Avoids exposure." "Exactly. And I get what I already built." Harold didn't answer. He didn't need to. I thought about the past week. The dinner, the ultimatum, the rumors, the setup. "No," I said. Harold paused. "You're sure?" "I'm not interested in a quiet exit. I'm interested in a correct one. This will get messy." "It already is." He exhaled slowly. "All right, then we push forward." That night, I stayed late at the office, going through everything again. Messages, notes, timeline. No gaps, no guesswork. Myra thought this would end quickly. She thought pressure would make me fold. Now she was trying to retreat. Too late. If this went to court, it wouldn't just be about divorce. It would be about what she tried to do, and I was going to make sure it stayed that way. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Quiet, controlled, no drama, until people bring it in. Myra was already there when I walked in, sitting beside her lawyer, John Reeves. She looked composed on the surface, but her eyes kept moving, not steady. Harold walked in with me, set his briefcase down, and said, "Let me handle it." "I will," I replied. The hearing started clean. Basic confirmations, names, filing details. Then Harold stood. "Your Honor, we will demonstrate that Mrs. Myra Grantley engaged in a deliberate pattern of deception, followed by an attempt to apply financial pressure tied directly to a pregnancy that is not my client's. No exaggeration, just facts." Reeves objected, lightly, predictable. The judge let it continue. Harold laid it out step by step. The trip, the timeline. Then he introduced the messages. Printed, highlighted, clear. The judge read them slowly. "Mrs. Grantley," she said, looking up, "are these messages authentic?" Myra hesitated. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispered something. "Yes," she said finally. "And at the time of these messages," the judge continued, "you were aware the child was not your husband's?" "Yes." Harold stepped forward slightly. "Your Honor, we also have a recorded conversation where Mrs. Grantley presents an ultimatum. Remain married and raise the child or face financial consequences in divorce." The judge looked at Reeves. He didn't fight it. The recording played. Myra's voice filled the room. Calm, controlled, clear. There was no misunderstanding in it. When it ended, the room stayed silent. The judge didn't look impressed. "Mrs. Grantley," she said, "do you deny making that statement?" "No." "Do you deny that the statement linked financial loss to your husband's refusal to accept paternity?" Myra swallowed. "No." That was it. No more angles left. Reeves tried to reframe it. Said she was emotional. Said she was trying to preserve stability. The judge shut it down. "This is not about emotion," she said. "This is about conduct." She reviewed her notes for a minute. Then she looked up. "Based on the evidence presented, I find that Mrs. Grantley engaged in deceptive conduct and attempted to apply financial pressure tied to false paternity expectations." Myra closed her eyes. The judge continued. This significantly impacts her claim to marital assets. She didn't rush it. Every word landed. Primary ownership of the business and residence remains with Mr. Matthew Grantley. Asset division will reflect Mrs. Grantley's conduct accordingly. Clean, direct, final. Outside the courtroom, Myra caught up to me. You didn't have to do this, she said. I stopped. Yes, I replied. I did. You could have ended this quietly. You should have started it honestly. Her jaw tightened. You've made this worse for both of us. I looked at her for a second. No, I said. I ended it correctly. I turned and walked down the steps. Didn't look back. There was nothing left to see. I didn't go home right away. I drove past the courthouse, past the noise, until I reached a small diner on the edge of town. Nothing special. Same kind of place Myra and I used to pass without noticing. I sat in a booth by the window, ordered coffee, black. While I waited, I looked around the place. Simple tables, quiet conversations, no tension in the air, just people eating, talking, living. Normal. It felt distant. The waitress set the coffee down. I nodded once. Then I pulled out my phone. There were a few messages waiting. Some from people reacting to the case, some from clients checking if things were stable. One stood out. Unknown number. You ruined my life. Was it worth it? I read it once, then again. I didn't need to guess who it was. I typed back slowly. You did that yourself. I just made it official. I sent it. Blocked the number. Put the phone down. No emotion. No satisfaction. Just closure. A few minutes later, my brother Daniel called. You all right? He asked. I'm fine. There was a pause. You sound like it. I am. He exhaled. People are already talking. About the case. About everything. Let them. You don't care? I care about facts, I said. Not noise. He didn't argue. He knew me well enough. All right, he said. Just don't let it change you. It won't. But I already knew something had changed. Not me. The way I saw things. After I finished the coffee, I stayed in the booth a few minutes longer. I thought about how it started. That dinner table. Her calm voice. The way she thought she had already written the ending. She gave me two options. Accept what she built, or lose everything I built. But she missed something important. I never played by forced choices. When I left the diner, the air outside felt different. Lighter. Not because anything was repaired, but because nothing was being hidden anymore. The truth had already done its job. I got into my car and sat there for a moment. Engine off. Hands on the wheel. No rush. No pressure. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was reacting to someone else's decisions. I felt like I was making my own again. I started the car and drove home. My home. Not ours. Mine. Things with her didn't explode in a single moment. They unraveled. The man from the trip didn't stay in the picture the way she expected. He stepped back as soon as reality hit what the situation actually was. No commitment, no future, just distance. She kept the pregnancy. About 8 months later, she gave birth alone, with lawyers still handling what was left between us. By the time it was all finalized, there was nothing emotional left in it. Just signatures and boundaries. I never heard from her again after that. Life went back to normal. Quiet. Simple. I stayed focused on work, on routines, on things that actually held weight in my life. She wanted me to raise a child that wasn't mine. Build a life on something I didn't choose. I chose not to. And I never looked back. Thank you for watching.